Hello and welcome to the Happy Musician Vlogcast. I'm Candace, your happy musician, and this is the Vlogcast where happy musicians come to talk. So my guest today is Jane Beament, and she is an international pianist, and she's also a C20 Specialist. You're gonna have to tell me what that is because I don't know what it is, but it's apparently very important. I've known Jane from many, many years ago, but Jane works closely with exceptional musicians in the Philadelphia Orchestra, who I want you to tell me about because you guys have an amazing duo. And so I hope that you enjoy our conversation today. So thank you so much for being here, Jane. I love that you are finally here as my guest.
I'm thrilled to be here, Candice. Absolutely lovely. And I should say, greetings from a rather damp and miserable London.
London, yes. Very, I have to say, I screwed up the time difference, but we're here. We made it. But
yeah, we're here. Yeah.
And I'm sad. I'll send some of my sunshine. It's sunny and beautiful here right now in the Philadelphia area. But
well, good for you.
So, I'm so sorry. I'll send it your way. So Jane, you've been quite busy. And before you tell me everything you're doing, what is a C20 specialist?
A C20, it's a 20th century music specialist.
Huh.
So, I should have been a little more specific about that then. So the 20th century stuff, basically I specialize in playing contemporary and fairly recently composed music. So I do play other stuff. I'm delighted always to play Beethoven and all sorts, you know, the traditional and standard repertoire, but I have specialized somewhat in 20th century music.
Okay. All right, well, learn something new every day. So, you're special, and yeah, contemporary music is pretty it's pretty special. Well, what's the word I'm looking for? It's very technical,
challenging. There's all sorts, partly things, they seem more challenging when you don't have a sound world. You know, you listen to a piece by Mozart, everything fits together. Your ear, oh, I know that's going to be that's going to finish up now, and that's going to lead me to something else. So as things got more and more away from a tonal center, you know, like being in a specific key, so you don't feel, oh, that's sort of finished off and now I'm going on to this. There's a little bit more over, I mean, there's far more technical descriptions of it, of course. But basically when you don't necessarily always feel that settled with certain things. And then of course, when stuff is new, you can't refer back to, oh, how did Horowitz play this? Right. Or how did that partnership play this? Or how did, so you're sort of learning stuff and being the sort of ambassadors of music as well, you know, which is great. So yeah, it's all grand, you know, it can be very challenging, but it can also be really, really rewarding when you've got a new piece that something's been written especially for you. Great. But then when you pick up stuff and think, yeah, oh, we just love this piece, or I just love this piece, you know. So it's a voyage of discovery all the time because it's new repertoire. So
you're essentially you're setting up the music, like when other people play this, like you're the person that they will refer to once there is a reference available, but you're it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No pressure there then.
No pressure there, right?
And as with everything, you know, people who make the first recordings, they think, right, that's a sort of exactly everything that's on the page is now recorded. And then someone else will take that and say, yeah, actually, we can just stretch that a little bit, or I can take a bit more time. And so then you end up with a whole sort of library of recordings, and everybody, of course, will add their interpretation and put their own personality and stamp on it. So that's great. But yeah, it's sort of being a bit of a, I'm not going to say, well, I am going to say being a guinea pig with things. I'm the guinea pig. I did that first, you know, I tried it out. So yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
Awesome. It sounds like it's a different type of freedom in like, you know, in being a C20 specialist that not everyone has right now. Because like you said, there's already expectations attached to pieces when we get them, but there isn't when you get it. So
and of course, we're now in the 21st century, so I probably should update it. So I'm already old hat.
That's right. Oh man. Oh, I don't want to think about how old. Okay, I'm not gonna think about it.
No,
Okay.
no, no.
So I've got my questions for you.
Yeah.
And my first question is it's a simple one, but what are you currently reading? And it doesn't have to be just one book. If you have more than one, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm reading 3 books myself at the moment, but what are you currently reading?
Well, I've just finished, like, I can't tell a lie and say I'm still reading, because I have just finished fantastic book by Zadie Smith, and it's called NW, and NW is for Northwest. Okay. So it's because Zadie is from Northwest London, and this particular book, I've just absolutely loved it. And it talks about various and describes and tells the story of different characters in this very specific part of Northwest London, which by happy coincidence is actually where I was born and spent my first sort of 6 or 7 years in the same sort of an area. So that I've really enjoyed that. And it was a birthday present from my darling husband, and it's a signed copy. So it's extra special. It's a signed copy from Zadie Smith. So NW by Zadie Smith. So that's the one I've just finished.
You just finished reading. And then, so is it fiction? Is it nonfiction? Is it a mix?
It's fiction, but you know, the sort of places and the characters are very, very real. So it's not in any way a sort of oh god, like a news reportage or something. It's a fiction. It's, you know, it's great, and I loved it. I just loved it. So that's just finished, and I started on. She's written a set of short stories, so I've just started on those. And the other one I've got is, I'm going to have to show you. It's Beethoven, A Life in 9 Pieces.
Oh my goodness, I have this book and I have not read it.
Right.
How are you liking it?
Yeah, well, it's by Laura Tunbridge, who's a professor of music at Oxford University, and it is fantastic. I'm only a little way through, and she's taken, well, clearly 9 pieces, and they're really great. She tells you about the piece, basically how they were created, what was going on at the time. You know, is Beethoven in a good mood on that day, or has he got the rats and he's got the oh boy, and he's ratty with everybody, you know. So he's got with the Eroica, and he's really, he's fed up with Napoleon. So that's the end of that.
Oh, right? Oh man, he couldn't stand him. Oh, yeah. Okay. So, okay, good. I've been staring at this book, and I'm like, I can't do the 4 books at a time right now, but it's okay. But no one I know, you know.
Yeah. And it was just whatever bookshop I was in, and I thought, oh, that does look interesting. Even just the title, and I thought, oh, well, I'll get one of those. So I dipped in a little while ago, and I'm just coming back to it now, and it really is great stuff, really fascinating.
Okay,
that's that.
I'm gonna move that up on my reading list, because I've been staring at it, and I think that's how I picked it up. I think I was literally in a bookstore. I was like, oh well, that looks interesting.
Yeah,
grab that.
Exactly so. There you go.
Catchy title. She did good with that. So
yeah,
she's got 2 people across the pond who picked it up.
Thought, ooh, yes, judging the book by its cover.
Right, literally.
That looks interesting.
That looks interesting. Okay, so this is like you would think that talking about like the music parts on the vlogcast would be my favorite part, but I love this part about books. I'm a bookaholic, but so it's always interesting to me, you know, to see how the books are connecting us all together, and what musicians are reading, because we can read some really crazy stuff. So all right, my next question to you, and this is always probably the worst question to ask any artist, but I ask it anyway because it always turns into something, you know, incredible. So what is your favorite piece or pieces to play?
Now, oh boy, have I thought about this. Oh my God.
Loaded question.
Loaded question. So I've thought and thought and thought, and I've referred back and watched the previous vlogs, and I love the answer that Rostropovich gave, which is whatever I'm working on at the time. One of the other guys said, I just can't answer that, and I'm with him there, but I've thought and thought and thought, because there are so many things that would I just love that, oh my God. But I have actually, big reveal, I have got a piece that I would say, yep, that is my favorite, and it's the Elgar violin sonata.
Oh, that's
yeah. And I've always loved this. And I've got my copy out before I was, going to talk to you, and I thought I'd play a few little bits from it. I thought, yep, I'm going to stay with that. Say one piece that I would play, and it's that. And I fell in love with it when I was a student, and I've still got the same copy. It's falling a bit apart. Never mind that. And now I play it with my duo partner, Tim Schwartz, who I'll talk about later. But we, talking about, across the pond, we have bonded over that piece. And I would say, yeah, Elgar. And in particular, the slow movement. So if you want to listen, folks, the slow movement, the second movement of the Elgar violin sonata is just wonderful.
Is just wonderful. Now, do you have a recording of you playing this piece at all? Because if you do, or even with your duo partner, I will put a link.
Okay. We do have, I'm trawling through the back of my brain now. There might be some YouTube clips of
okay. We'll tackle it after this, but if you have them, and I will give everyone, because if they should have the opportunity to enjoy it as much as you do. So we'll just put a link right there for everyone to just click and listen to the Elgar.
Or if we can find someone else, just so that you can experience the wonderful music.
Yeah, okay. I'm familiar with it. I had a teacher that played it, and I cannot play it at all. I took piano, but it is it's beautifully, I don't want to say haunting. It's not that haunting, but it definitely, she would play it, and I would just sit there and just kind of start like, oh my God.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting as well, you say, because the 3 chamber works, Elgar wrote 3 chamber works towards the end of his life, from 1918, after the war. So there's a string quartet, the violin sonata, and a piano quintet. And they were all written, like they all pretty much at the same sort of time.
Right. Yeah.
And he lived in Worcestershire, out sort of country, in the English countryside. And there is a story about, there were some trees that had been struck by lightning and are all sort of very misshapen. And there was a story, this is a good story, there was a story that they were actually Spanish monks. How the hell they'd got to Worcestershire, I don't know. But
that what? Were they lost?
They'd been struck down. So these misshapen trees were meant to be, so that you're saying haunting, oh boy, that comes up, that sort of ties up quite nicely. But it is melancholy as well. There's some sadness in there. And he was very concerned with the loss of life after the First World War. And his wife was ill. And so there is a sort of a tinge of sadness as well,
Yeah, I definitely could feel that when I hear it. It's very apparent there. But at the same time, the whole piece isn't, the whole movement doesn't seem very sad to me, but I do feel it. It's in there. It's wrapped it up quite nicely, at least to me. So, all right. Well, everyone, be prepared, because either you're going to hear it. It'll be on the link, either with Jane or someone else. You'll hear this lovely movement. My next question to you is, what 2 people have been the most influential to you, and why?
Right. Again, Candace. Oh my.
They just start out simple and they get harder and harder.
And it's almost impossible, because you think, well, obviously my husband, my parents, my family, I've got friends. There are so many musicians whose playing I adore. So I thought, okay, let's be sensible as well here and try and think, okay. So the 2 people I would say are my piano professor, who is Hamish Milne. So he was my professor when I was a student at the Royal Academy of Music. And although, sadly, he passed away earlier this year, and I'd been so much in touch with him recently, but as a student, he really did have an enormous influence on me. And even now, I think, I still draw on things that he said and technical things. And so I would say, as starting out as a pianist, he was really, really a big influence. And like I say, that influence has stayed with me always, ever since. So Hamish Milne. And again, think. And I'm going to say my duo partner, Tim Schwartz. Fantastic. Because, well, as you know, Tim is a fantastic violinist. He's a wonderful person.
Pleasure. When you guys were here in the States, I attended a concert, and he is enthralling. He's
So Tim and I, we've known each other for many years now, since David and I were living, my husband and I were living in Philadelphia in the mid to late 90s. So I've known Tim that long. And then we were back in touch, about 13-ish years ago, I guess. And maybe even a little bit more. And we got chatting. He was visiting in London, and we got chatting, and he said, it would be nice to play again, wouldn't it? I said, yeah, it would. So he came over and said, let's do a concert. Let's play the Corigliano Sonata. So probably found the hardest piece I've ever played, the John Corigliano Sonata, which was fabulous. And we had the best time. And I thought, okay. And he said, so next time we do this. So it was like, that was the start of our international partnership, because he lives in Philadelphia and I'm here. So we don't come together that often. I mean, normally it's once or twice a year. Obviously, things are different at the moment. But Tim's artistry and musicianship, and he's such a wonderful man. He has had an enormous influence, and he's a fantastic technician. So it means that I have to practice hard to try and match. So my two influences, Hamish from the very start of my career, and now my current situation, my current playing situation.
Well, those are perfect answers. I mean, they just talk about fitting both ends of the spectrum together, and I've seen you two perform, and you definitely have a fantastic chemistry on stage. It shows. It's just so natural, and I just love it. So, and I'm sure he will appreciate how much of an influence is. But that's what we want with people. He's making you keep your chops up in a way,
So, and then we obviously the pair of us. I suggest, well, what about this piece? Because we specialise in British and American repertoire. So he knows certain things that I've not come across before, and so we're again always, oh, what about this? And let's try this, and experimenting. So it's great, exactly keeping each other on our toes, playing right.
And you just that's what you. All right, I'm not going to make you think about it much harder. So this is the last question, and this one is a little bit more gentler than the others. And I asked it, and it's really significant to ask this question during this time because of with COVID and just political unrest and all this other stuff. But I asked everyone, what are you doing to keep happiness in your art at this time?
Well, I like to think, and I've got a pretty sunny disposition, and I try and sort of be. So generally, I like to think that I'm a fairly happy-go-lucky sort of person. So right now, it is very important to sort of be aware and understand that, when I for example, I have to take the train to go in and work, to go in and teach in the school I'm at. So you have to be sort of aware that other people might be a little more anxious about being on the train. I mean, just using that as a thing. So being aware and try and be nice. I think that's the sort of a very good motto to have. Be nice. It's better that way, So I try and do that. I go running, but I always go running. That's not a COVID a COVID beater.
Coping thing now, but but yeah, I mean, I like mindfulness is kind of like where you're at, and then you're running, and I think you were going to say something else.
It's running, and I work with a trainer, so physical fitness is important to me. The running is great because basically you just you put your shoes on and you can just go, and that's it. And as long you don't have to think about anything, you don't and it's a nice way of a bit of me time. Like I say, you don't have to concentrate on not falling over. That's really it. But that's a nice way of just being outside in almost whatever the weather is, and the shorter distance or longer distance. But that's something I've always done, and because we are able to go out and take exercise, even with lockdown, you can always go out with.
You can, yeah.
take exercise. So that's, you know, basically, yeah, just sort of keep on keeping on and try and be mindful and be aware of other people. And not everybody has the same, you know, I'm fortunate I've got a comfortable home. We can both work comfortably from home. You know, again, I think one of your guests previously said, be thankful for the things that you do have and for the things that you can do. And I think that's a very good motto as well.
It's extremely, it's, I mean, gratefulness fuels so much positivity. It does help, you know, and I have my little time in the morning, and I do my little check-ins with myself, and it does. And just reminding yourself, hey, you've got this, or you can do this, or this is, you know, here, it makes it clears my mind. And I do it before I practice too, because I'm like, oh, it really clears my head, because my head's constantly going. So kind of just, okay, let's go on the music and let's just go. But it's so much, you can find it. There's a little bit to be thankful for somewhere. You just gotta take time and recognize it. So
absolutely.
All right. Well, Jane, I wish I want to talk to you more and go longer, but you've answered all of my questions. And I'm gonna make sure that everyone, so just to remind everyone, I usually put links up for the books if you're interested in reading both books, Beethoven in 9 Pieces and W, those will be up. And then I will put a link up for the Elgar. And I also have a link up to, I did come across YouTube, and I think it's actually Schwartz's YouTube. And I'm going to put a link to that, because he has wonderful video of you two performing David's composition. So be prepared, everyone, to be very
prepared, because yes, Tim Schwartz is far more tech savvy than I am. I'll just be here. I'll just play these millions of notes, and then you put them on YouTube, or you do whatever you want to do.
We'll get it all up there. But I do want to thank you for being my guest today, and, you know, working with the crazy time difference. Is it 5-hour time difference?
5 hours, yeah.
5-hour time difference. Wow.
So,
okay. So you're just ending your day. I'm not starting my day.
You're partway through. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So
I'm in the middle of it. Tell David I said hello and all of that stuff. But thank you again for being my guest. And thank you everyone for watching the Happy Musician Vlogcast, where happy musicians come to talk. If you are interested in getting these right to your well, I should say email, or I was going to say box, and I put those together. Just go ahead to thehappymusician.com and subscribe. So thank you everyone for watching. Thank you again, Jane. It's so nice to see you. And everyone, I'll see you on the next Vlogcast.